This is the Arn Show. Paul Bromwell here on the Four Horsemen Network. And as always, I'm joined by the Hall of Famer, the architect of the Spine Buster, the standard bearer of tag team wrestling. He's my tag team partner, our television champion. He's the enforcer. He's double A. He's Arn Anderson. And Arn, I got to be honest, I'm still riding high from our last show with Barry Darso. What a great conversation that was, man.
You know, and I never thought I'd say this, but his memory's as good or better than mine. I would have thought he wouldn't be able to remember all this stuff, but man, he was right on, wasn't he?
Buddy, he was excellent. You were excellent. So many comments on our under YouTube as far as just from those clips and from that show in general of people saying, hey, this is a top 5 episode of all time. Arn, just hearing Barry and Arn's stories, just so fun and reminiscing and hearing about their relationship. But guess what? We can always count on our faithful listeners, because there were some folks that commented and said, hey, Arn, Barry, I think we know who the gentleman was that you guys were talking about that you tagged with in Georgia Championship Wrestling. Does the name Joe Lightfoot ring a bell?
100%. That's it. Chief Joe Lightfoot.
There it is. So I couldn't wait. I didn't even tell you before we started. I was like, I'm saving this for the show. But man, we can always count on our listeners, can't we?
Yeah, yes, we can. And they're smarter than we are too, you know.
They know their stuff. I'll go back and read the comments and they're like correcting this and that. And I'm like, guys, hey, this is all. I just wish that some of you could, maybe we should pre-share notes and things like that, because they are spot on. They're fans and they love you, Arn, and they love this show. So thank you guys so much for all the great feedback, by the way. Hey, subscribe, turn on notifications if you haven't already, and join us. By the way, I see comments flooding in. Make sure you super chat. I got a ton of stuff to go over, and I have a feeling I know what the comments are rolling in, Arn. What do you think the comments are? I'm not even looking at them. Why do you think the comments, what do you think they're saying right now?
Well, now, how am I going to pick something out of the air like
that?
No,
just look at our faces and then look at the names under our faces.
Well, yeah, the names are flip-flop, but I look at it as being advertising in both frames for both co-hosts of the show. It's not really weird to me. It's weird to you, isn't it?
It is, and I'm probably sure. I'm going to click on the comments tab and see if we're getting lit up for it. No, is anybody saying anything? No, everybody's just being kind. Hi, great to see everybody. Oh, Rob Hissam. Arn and Paulie B are switching roles tonight. So there we go. Guys, listen, we logged on. I've logged out of this application that we use, StreamYard, to record. Tried to switch us with the mouse like I always do when we both log on. I can't figure it out. I don't know what else to do. We'll get, if I've got to get a new skin for this show, next show we will. Or maybe it's just my browser and I didn't have time to shut it down and redo it, all that good stuff.
Well, let's just
for tonight, I'm Arn Anderson and he's Paul Bromwell on the skin.
I mean, it really does not jump off the page as being something that's wrong or incorrect.
Okay. I love it. All right, good stuff. So we addressed the elephant in the room. CG said he didn't even notice that we had our name switched. Yeah. So it's whatever. So there you go.
Check.
Good stuff, guys. Listen, we're so glad all of you are here, by the way, our live audience. We can always count on you, and we love having you here. Arn, let's talk about June and Darren Staley. Let's talk about June, because you have some big stuff coming up this weekend, and we're excited for you because I know you've enjoyed a kind of a quiet month of May, enjoying some time around the house, but the appearances are stepping up this weekend in a big way, starting with Spartanburg, aren't they?
Absolutely. Spartanburg is Friday the 6th, and it's a cage match with the Andersons and George South as our partner.
Yes, sir.
Against the Rock and Roll Express and Kerry Morton. So the Mortons and Hoot and Ricky, and it's
Ricky, Robert, and Kerry Morton.
Yeah, buddy. And I'm sure the people of Spartanburg remember some of those names.
The Spartanburg Memorial Auditorium. Those 3 words, does that just bring back memories or what, bud?
Well, we're making sure, you know, I've said many times, what I love doing these shows so I can thank the fans, because I never had an opportunity to do it before. This is one of those towns.
So special.
We're going to be starting at 5 o'clock signing and meet and greet and all that stuff. It's going to be a great night.
Guys, one more time, if you're in the area, you can see the graphic. If you're watching on YouTube, btwtix.com. If you're in the area, check it out. If you're not in the area, make the trip. Come see him Friday night, 5 o'clock, as Arn said. That's when you get to meet the stars. And Bret Hart is going to be there as well. Another big draw. So it's going to be a great time. And do that for sure. Then you're not done, Arn, because this weekend you continue to Beckley, West Virginia. It's the Bash at Beckley 5. Brock versus Kerry Morton. The feud continues on with the Mortons the next night. And you're going to be in the corner of Brock. Ricky is going to be in the corner of Kerry. And that's at the Beckley Raleigh Convention Center. I know you're looking forward to that one as well.
Yeah, and I've did that show a couple of times. Those guys have put on a really good production. So you'll enjoy the show if you can make that one as well. Beckley's a great wrestling town. West Virginia is a great wrestling state, matter of fact.
There you go. Well, and if you can't make that town and make that event, don't worry. There's another opportunity to watch Brock, because here we go. Saturday night, MLW YouTube War Chamber. And Arn, you and I were just talking about this one. This is going to be a big show, a lot going on. They're in the main event of this event. It's Matthew Justice, Alex Kane, Mr. Thomas, and Paul London. They're going to step into this War Chamber against the Rogue Horsemen, and that's Brock and CW banded together with Bobby Fish and Brett Ryan Gosselin. And man, I tell you what, it's going to be a battle anytime you're talking about any kind of war game style event, isn't it, Arn?
That's a lot of bodies all fighting at one time, and that's pretty much what you're going to see. It's going to be a war, just like it says.
Let the bodies hit the floor. Oh man, it's going to be a great time, a great event. Check it out, YouTube MLW. You can search MLW and find all the different ways that you can participate. Check it out there. And then I'm going to hit one more event, Arn. You and I talked about this one, and it is the Gathering. It's the end of July. You get to see Brock. You get to see Arn. You get to have your picture with the Horsemen. Brock's going to wrestle, I think, that weekend, right, Arn?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's that again. It's just right up the road at University, and that guy puts on a hell of a show too. It's a full event, 3-4 days, and people come from everywhere. I mean, it's summer; they make it a summer trip, and it's we're looking forward to that big time.
TeamArtPromotions.com. Listen, I'm making it a summer trip. I'm going to be hanging out with you, Arn. I can't wait. I booked Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night at that Hilton University hotel. So I'm looking forward to being a part of it and seeing all of you there. And I hope to see all of you there. Would love to meet some of our listeners and shake your hands and get pictures, whatever you want. It'll be a great time, Arn, and I can't wait to be there with you.
And that is a special deal having you on the road. I'm proud to have you, and I'm sure all the fans are looking forward to meeting you in person, because you provide a lot of entertainment, my friend. Make no mistake, without you, there is no show.
Well, Arn, I'm just a facilitator of the fun stuff that we get to hear. And as we have around the virtual living room of Arn Anderson, just hearing so many years worth of stories and content, now having guests on. This year alone, we've had Tully and Mark Marrow, Barry Darso, and I'm sure we're not finished. And I'm just fortunate enough to be along for the ride, so I appreciate it. I wanted to touch on one thing before we start getting into the show, and I think we'll go to the questions. Whoever has super chats, we'll go to them first before we get into January 96. And that is, guys and gals, our next show is going to be June 24th, the end of this month, the last Tuesday of this month at 6. Ask Arn Almost Anything. And the reason we have a 2-week break in between is because Arn and Aaron are celebrating 40 years of marriage. So congratulations, Arn. The next time I see you, you have celebrated 40 years of marriage with your beautiful bride. And what a milestone, and what a legacy that is for you and Aaron.
What a lucky woman. She has earned her stripes. She has earned a Congressional Medal of Honor. You name it, any award that I could possibly delve out to her, she has got it coming, and that's her home. Anyway, we'll on the 40th, 14th, I had a brain fart there, guys.
No, it's all good. But hey, you know what? You're getting caught up in the moment, and I totally get it. She had, aren't just enough people that watch this show know how special that she is to you and all that she's helped you with. Listen, just all they have to hear is when you talk about your Thanksgiving celebration, Christmas celebration, all these different things, the meals and everything that she does for your family, the backbone, just getting you set up for these shows. I've just seen so much of her, got to spend some time with her in Iowa. Man, you have a wonderful wife, and I can't wait for you to hear about and listen. And I want you two to have a great time together on your 40th wedding anniversary, brother.
We absolutely will. Sorry, I got a little twisted up a little bit.
All good. Hey,
pretty emotional. 40 in this industry is a long time. It's like 80 with somebody else. Just all the things that the wives and do for us. We can never thank them enough.
Listen, see, there's people in the comments saying, "Arn, congratulations, CG, to you and Aaron. Here's to 40 more. Holy 40, congrats from Rob." Darren Staley wants to know, does she ever hang out with Lois Shivani? Probably not. She's actually happy with her husband. Let's see.
Or she don't admit it if she's not.
Oh, so good. So no, a lot of great comments for you, recognizing you and all that stuff. And then now there's a few folks called Pondwater and Efren that are actually having a good laugh apparently over the skin swap here. So some people are enjoying this. So a lot of fun, a lot of good times, and there we go. Hey Paul, you're backwards on YouTube. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it from the boss. We understand, and we need to. That just is what it is tonight. We're just going to roll with it and have some fun.
That's it.
That's it. All right, Arn. Well, listen, we have a full crowd here with us watching tonight, and Daisy Mama's here. I see her and others, and we have our first super chat, and so we're going to go to that first, and it's from Eric Rick, $20. Thank you guys for the work you are doing to record the history of wrestling. Arn, who is someone from the generation of wrestling before you who you feel doesn't get talked about enough? Also, congrats on the 40th anniversary.
Well, thank you for that. Appreciate it. I don't know if Slater and
Bob Orton, yeah.
Bob Orton Jr. were recognized as being really as good as they were together. Because, like I said, that's the guys that got me wanting to be a wrestler and really had me just hooked. When they were partners in Georgia Championship Wrestling, they were just phenomenal, and I don't know if they got enough credit for just how good they were.
So, and I love that you said those names, because those are two guys that you're right. You don't necessarily hear as much about them, and you're spot on. What was I watching the other day? And Bob Orton was running out. I can't even recall, but he's been involved with so much over time too. And just because he was always either aligned with, again, Roddy Piper, when you think about 80s WWF, he had his time in NWA, other areas as well. But always a stud. And, most people now immediately think of Randy and his son and all that he's going on to do. But no, good call for sure. Let's go on. Stardog Productions has a super chat, $50 super chat.
Wow.
Holy smokes. Thank you so
much.
That might be the biggest one we've ever gotten on this show. Thank you so much.
Absolutely is. Thank you, sir.
Holy smokes. Much respect to UAA, and congrats on your anniversary. Arn, can you think of any time that you or any of the top talent drove to the wrong town?
No, but Rick Rude did it more than once.
Oh, okay. Rick Rude.
Yes, sir. He did it, I know, a couple of times. Went to Macon when he was supposed to be in Gainesville. Went to Gainesville one time. He was supposed to be in Marietta or somewhere else. He didn't look at his booking sheet too closely. No, I was, sometimes if you didn't pay attention, if you just saw Charleston and you didn't see whether it was South Carolina or West Virginia, you could make that mistake. It happened occasionally back in the day.
Yeah, if you're just glancing, or maybe you're just talking with somebody and you just, it's a quick type of thing and you just start on down the road and, oh
Well,
my
you're
God.
working. Well, you're working every day, and some guys, didn't, look at their book or keep a book as closely as they should have. When you're working every single day, day after day after day, things have a way of getting away from you. That's one that wasn't done very often. Um, and maybe a little Bacalolo had something to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that makes a lot of sense.
Get smoked up and go to the wrong town. I'm sure that's happened more than once.
For sure. Now, see, guys, that's something you got to consider too, that I wasn't even thinking about. Having a little bit of fun and then trying to figure out where you're supposed to go. And this is way before the days of just throwing it in your phone and Google Maps just telling you where to go too.
Yeah, no joke. You had to pay a little bit of attention. That's for sure.
Man, that's good. Hey, thank you guys so much already for 2 great super chats. And really, again, we can't say enough. And thank you. Keep them coming in. We're going to jump into this week's topic because we have a lot to cover, Arn, and I'm going to try to move as much as possible. But a lot of story is evolving through January 1996. The last time you and I talked about and got together and talked about each month of your career, it was December 95, Starrcade 95 to be exact. And Ric Flair walked out 12 times world champion. And let's be honest, we all saw it. A little help from you. And you slid in there. You knocked out Savage with a foreign object. It was a classic enforcer moment. Rick scoops up the win. Bam, the Horsemen are back in the spotlight. But here's the thing. While all that is going on, they had, as you remember, that World Cup of Wrestling with New Japan, 7 matches. And it's interesting. And again, as I read YouTube comments on that show, there were some of our fans, they absolutely loved that. I was sitting here on the show saying, I don't feel like I really knew who those folks were. If I wasn't reading magazines, I wasn't as super familiar with New Japan. But we have, and again, I know we have the hardcores of wrestling fans that really follow along and watch. But there were a lot of fans that, hey, this was one of my favorite pay-per-views. But here was the issue. We get to Nitro, and it was like it never happened. The whole tournament just disappeared, results, and we started moving down the road. And you have said this before, you're not wild about tournament style shows being on shows. And so I'm going to ask you, if you had to make it work, how would you have followed up? I mean, this thing was front and center, biggest stage, biggest show of the year for WCW, and then just poof, like that. It's gone. We're moving on to WCW storylines.
Well, you could have done a package of the matches that they didn't get to see, compilation, and then maybe you had the champion decided on free TV the next night on that show.
Yeah, there you go. For the World Cup, you mean, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
hold off the final match to put it on free TV, and you get a payoff there, and you get a chance to put a package together that lets the people see what they'd missed.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe.
Yeah. You know what? And something to glue it together, something to give a little bit of consistency and story, or something to put a bow on it. But it was treated as much as just a kind of a one-off event, and then it was move on down the road. And so let's talk about what we moved into as we get into this, because there was some simmering tension underneath. You had 2 heel factions. You got the Dungeon of Doom and you have the Horsemen, but there's tension building between both you groups. You've got Brian Pillman. We're going to talk about him a little bit on this show, and I'm sure the next month or two as well, because he's running wild at this point, Arn. He's taking shots at everyone. It seems like that these 2 factions are stepping on each other's toes. So we have that kind of going on right now. We're going to get into a little bit what happens at Clash of the Champions with Brian Pillman. But did you think that putting the world title back on Flair added fuel to the fire between the Dungeon and the Horsemen, or was this less about the title and just more about, power plays and just things circling each other? Because here quickly on a Nitro, Flair's going to lose the belt right away back to Macho.
Yeah, it depends on what you do after that, and you just pretty much let it out of the bag. You're going to do some flip-flopping there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
of the title. Now, if you've got a guy that's already established, you can get away with that a little bit if they're of equal talent, push, reputation. Savage and Hogan, Flair and Savage, you can flop the title back and forth a little bit. If you do that with a guy that's not quite ready to be in that spot, you may throw it out there that maybe it was just a fluke and it
Fair
doesn't
enough.
have the same value, as
Yeah.
it would have had.
Well, let's talk about that Nitro after Starrcade, because it's January 1st, 1996. It's New Year's, January 96. Where were all of you January 1996? Man, I can tell you what, January 96, Arn, I got to go to a Steelers playoff game and watch a guy by the name of Kevin Greene play football for the AFC Championship, and he would go on to the Super Bowl. More on Kevin Greene as we go on down the road here. But January 1st, 96, live from the Omni in Atlanta, 6,000 folks in the building, and this show was loaded with Horseman business. First, you're in the ring with none other than Randy Macho Man Savage. Now, listen, keep in mind, you just cost him the world title the night before. So he's not actually, showing up with a Christmas card for you, buddy. And you wouldn't know it. I mean, he gets his revenge by cracking you that night with your own foreign object. And then just to twist that knife, he tucks it back in your trunks while the ref's out. Is that poetic justice or what?
Where did it come from initially?
He and I'd have to go back and see where he grabbed it from, but he snagged it, hit you with it, and then he puts it right back in your trunks. So I'm sure, so you must have had it. He got his hands on it.
What is he doing in my trunks? Number one.
You probably got it out to use it and he snagged it from you.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. But far be it from me to complain about somebody taking a liberty if it's got the world title, in the mix, in its history, or that night. That was just vengeance that night. It wasn't for a title. And maybe I had it coming. You'll always find that when I get my ass kicked, I've usually got it coming.
Everybody's putting where they were in 96 in the chat. It's so much fun. But you and Randy have had some history. You remember, and you've talked about this on the show, his first WCW singles match was with you.
Yeah.
Talk about working with him overall, because he had that reputation of being a perfectionist. Did that clash with your style or did it click?
No, I'm fine with that. Randy was very businesslike, very straightforward, and he brought it. He would bring it in the ring. You had to, if you're going to keep up, you bet you had to keep up with him. And I had a lot of respect for his work and for the character and what went into it. I mean, it was pretty intense, that's for sure.
Let's talk a little bit about Brian Pillman, because while all this is going down the ring, backstage, it's heating up too. He comes out for a live interview. He goes off, Arn. He tears into you, Benoit, for losing, starts stirring the pot. He's throwing gasoline all over the fire. And I got to ask, how much of what Brian Pillman was doing at this point was actually scripted, or was this the beginning of him just being that loose cannon character and just it was bleeding into real life and you were starting to ask yourself, is this part of the deal? Did someone plan this with him, or is he just letting it rip?
I have no idea.
Okay.
And I don't think anybody can tell you with certainty that they know. Brian was off the deep end.
He was.
Completely. Now, he would have his moments of very calm and subdued and intelligent conversation. And the next thing you know, he's screaming and hollering and stomping around. And I don't think we will ever know what was Brian and what was Brian.
Well, and it's crazy too, because think about this. You have the Horsemen with Pillman. Remember, I said they're starting to antagonize and really fester with who? Kevin Sullivan and the Dungeon of Doom. So you're starting to see Kevin Sullivan play that antagonist role. And now you have this wild man, Pillman, on the other side. Kevin had been this cartoon villain with the Dungeon of Doom, but now he's starting to get serious. He's focused. He's acting dangerous. So I think it's starting to reshape how we're viewing Kevin in his heel role. Do you think that's obviously? I'm guessing Kevin intended to try to start booking himself because he's, I'm sure, involved with the booking at this point that way into more of a serious role versus that Dungeon of Doom kind of cartoony Taskmaster character.
Well, he had some killers in that group, as we know. And when things, got haywire, he saw an opportunity to play off of that. And he did. He took advantage of the situation.
Did you ever find yourself being a voice of reason at all for Pillman? Did he ever come talk to you, or did you not kind of have that relationship with him, or what did that look like?
See this?
Yeah.
About right there, about once a week, that was the voice of reason. Because you couldn't talk to him.
So
he would get wound. He would just get wound up. And, we never had scripted interviews, and nobody ever handed me a piece of paper and said, "Here, memorize this." Ever, my whole time in the business, never. Sometimes they would voice bullet points to me. Hey, cover this and this and this, and okay, not a problem. But Brian just. God, you just didn't know. You never knew was this him really just percolating and just boiling over on live TV, or is he, or what? Who knows?
So can you remember a specific encounter or anything with him where the two of you, where you were just like, gave him the old.
Well, I smacked him in the ring live on TV.
Okay.
I think the premise was he's a horseman now. We don't listen to anybody. I was out there trying to patch, the bridge with Sullivan and his crew. That to me was just getting your body beat up for a fight you could avoid. And he just, he was jumping up and down, we're the horsemen. We don't have to say or do anything we don't want to do. And it was just, I could see that it was going downhill very quickly.
Sure.
So I smacked him pretty good and woke him up for just a second. It didn't last a week, that's for sure.
My God. Nothing backstage out of that after that little deal?
It was like it never happened.
Wow. Okay.
That's how crazy it was. So you would think, hey, this guy went into business for himself, and you went back there thinking he's going to be either in character or something going off. I mean, a guy just slapped you in the face on national television. I would think he'd be blowing a gasket, and he was just calm. Well, I expected the worst, and I don't know if I got the best scenario that could have been backstage. I was prepared for either one.
It's almost like bipolar type stuff here.
That's exactly what it's like when we don't know if it was just,
just part of the show or what.
Yeah, right. Yep. We'll never know.
Yeah. Daniel Thompson said, I remember when you smacked him on Nitro, he looked like he had seen a ghost. So there you go. I want to shift gears because we're going to come back to Pillman, don't you worry. But let's talk about Nitro, because Eric Bischoff, this is the Nitro he starts to drop results of Raw live on air. He spoils the pre-taped WWF show. And listen, this is the early days of the Monday Night War, and he and WCW wasn't pulling any punches. Do you remember hearing that was happening? And did you think, man, what a gutsy move, or are we desperate? Or, as we look back on it, what do you think about spoiling the competition's shows?
Well, at that point in time, we had a whole bunch of ground to make up, and I saw a guy that was, doing whatever he could do to change the change the
landscape, right, and the ratings, and
change the landscape. Yeah, I mean, he was, he was going to war, and you
got to appreciate the cojones of someone who's willing to take that step, right?
Hell yes. Yeah. I mean, because in those days there was just lines you didn't step across. He stepped across them all.
But you know who stepped across them all first? The guy he was doing it to now, right? So why not?
Absolutely.
It's time to step up.
Yeah. Yeah. If we're going to make this actually a competition, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Balls out, balls to the walls.
It's like the kid in school when he finally steps up to the bully. It's the same thing. You don't back down.
Well, and you swing first.
You do. You swing first. Darren Staley, by the way, loved what I did with my hands when I expressed the word cojones. So I just thought I'd share that. We got some characters in this chat tonight, man. Let's move on to the January 8th Nitro. And this is in the Omni, another place that you love to work on. January 8th, 1996.
Favorite.
You're back in the main event, teaming with Flair against Hogan and Savage. And I hate to bring it up, but Hogan pins you in the end, okay? Big boot, leg drop, the usual greatest hits. But it's what happened after that match that turns heads, because all hell will break loose. The rest of the Horsemen hit the ring. You got Sullivan, you got Zodiac, you got the Giant. They all come charging in too. And while everyone's brawling, the Giant lays out both Hogan and Savage again. And Zodiac's once more trying to stop him from going too far. But we're going to see it here. It's physicality between the Horsemen and the Dungeon of Doom. You got those two heel factions beating the hell out of each other. That wasn't common back then, Arn. Do you think they were just trying to blur the lines and create chaos? Or was this just like, hey, let's throw everybody in, see what happens, and we'll throw it all in the blender and see if our fans enjoy this?
Chaos.
Yeah.
Let's try it. We're throwing stuff up against the wall to see if it'll stick. That's chaos. Heels fighting heels. It's not necessarily the ideal situation, because I think as a fan, you just go, yeah, well, you guys, I don't like any of you guys. You guys all kill each other. I don't care. Which is okay too, sometimes.
Yeah, the pro wrestling nerd out booker may say, oh, the focus should have stayed on Hogan and Savage as the primary storyline. But to your point, it was a little bit of Crash TV that was starting to enter storylines and trying to change things up a little bit.
Yeah. Sometimes different is enough.
So there's another thing that would happen off camera this month, and it's worth talking about. And word came down from WCW management that wrestlers could no longer travel with their title belts. From now on, all championship belts had to stay with the company officials. Is there anyone that wants to take a guess in the chat? We're going to make this interactive. Why WCW decided that wrestlers could no longer travel with their championship belts? And I'll give it about 10 seconds. And if not, I'm going to share, Arn. But again, new rules, new era, new mandate. Got to stay with company officials. You can't travel with them. Let's see if we have anybody that chimes in as to the why. Nope, not people losing them. Daisy Mama. No, someone didn't lose a belt, CG. Something much worse happened. All right, one more guess, and I'm gonna give it away. Anyone? So everybody's Googling right now. I'm just gonna share. Arn, it was a few weeks earlier. Madusa takes the aka Alundra Blaze, walks on the Nitro with that WWF Women's title and drops it in the trash can on live TV. What was your gut reaction when you saw that or heard about it?
It was something I hadn't seen before.
Right.
She's too tough to say anything to her about it, to be honest with you. You know what I thought you were going to say was the answer?
What?
Well, they confiscated the titles so you didn't have a guy leave the company and take it with him.
Because but you're right though. That's exactly what she did. She left WWF, took that women's belt with her, used it as imagery and an analogy or whatever. Use it as an image to drop that right in storytelling, vehicle for storytelling, powerful storytelling. How it's not worth anything, dumps it in the garbage. Eric's got to be just loving life at that point. What a visual, right?
Pretty stout.
Oh, so yeah. So now this is the month they made the ruling. No more belts travel with the company. We're not taking that risk. So much is evolving because of the competition at this point.
Well, I mean, if you're going to go to war, it's you got to be unpredictable, I would think.
Hey, her podcast co-host does the research for this show, is here with us live in the chat, and he says, fun fact, and it's Andrew Hermes, by the way. She still has the title belt. She's willing to sell it. Price starts $100,000. Arn, do you wish you held on to more of your title belts?
Well, I was just checking my wallet. I'm probably not. I'm gonna be a little short today on that one.
We need more super chats, guys. Come on, bring them in. I love it.
Not sure I would have invested in that particular scenario,
but it's such a big deal because of kind of what happened. So it does have a little bit more elevated prestige.
I'm not to say it's not worth it. It's worth whatever anybody's willing to pay for it, and that know the history. It's certainly rich in history.
For sure. You know what? It was fun little fact, guys. Several years ago, because somebody just said paging Conrad Thompson, but a few years ago, Tony Schiavone and his podcast group had a get together in Huntsville, Alabama, Arn. And one of their experiences was having a lot of the used championship belts there. Dave Milliken was there, who's made some belts, and was Reggie Parks, one of his protege, his star pupil and protege, who's done some wonderful belts as well. But anyway, one of the title belts that was there that we got to see, and I have a picture with it, is Madusa's belt. So there you go.
There you are.
For the belt, for the people that love to hear belts, as long as the big gold was there too, the original big gold. So that was a lot of fun. So lots going on here. It's a power move from Bischoff. WCW didn't just pop the crowd with that moment, by the way. They're literally creating company policies based on it. And this is just another sign and symbol, giving away Raw results, dropping WWF title belts in the garbage. They're starting to throw punches. Okay. So it's a fun time to be a wrestling fan, no doubt. Let's jump into Clash of Champions. So that happens at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. Now, Arn, let's talk a little bit about the venue. Big fan. I know you like to head over to the slot machines and have some fun in Vegas, right?
Yep. I like to sit over there with the blue-haired little old ladies that are my age, and just kind of people watch and play. It used to be the quarter slots were sweet.
Okay.
It's like $1.50 a play, and you could hit. I think it had like a $1,200 payoff. Some of those machines, red, white, and blues, by the way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and Vegas is just one of those deals. You can just literally get a couple beers, sit down and just, sit down one of the slot machines, put $20 in, and just people watch for an hour. Can't do that anymore. It's $3 or $4 a play now.
Well, and now Vegas seems to be, at least for the WWE, it's going to be a big spot for WrestleMania. I don't know if you've heard that.
Yeah.
But they just were there. I think they're looking to come back again. And then depending on what you read out there, it could be more of a permanent style home for WrestleMania, at least more frequent, a frequent spot, if you will. So we'll see what happens there. But let's get back on track here, because before you show up in Vegas, what I wanted to mention was that go home Nitro right before it ended with you accidentally cracking Flair with a foreign object. So you're pretty busy with these foreign objects, Arn, and Savage wins the world title again. So now with here in a span, of several weeks, Savage champ, Flair champ, back to Savage champ. And that's what we were talking about earlier with the flip-flop of the belts.
Why didn't he duck?
You think he would have learned, right? That's a great point.
I'm blind. I can't see that well.
That's a good one. They should have mixed that up.
This is a co-op.
See, Arn, that's why, like Barry Darso said, putting stuff together, end the matches, you're the man.
I am pretty smart. I'm the smartest one in this room, but I'm the only one in here. Smokey ain't even in here.
I thought you were talking about this virtual room with me and you.
Oh, well, for sure I'm not the smartest.
I'm
definitely not the smartest one in that room.
Yes, you are. That's hilarious. Listen, 2 title wins for Savage in 3 weeks. It's going back and forth like a hot potato, and so we have that going down. But let's get back to now we have the Clash. The show's packed. During the big main event hype, Hogan's out there with Mean Gene, brother. He's cutting the promo. He's flanked by a parade of women, including woman who's back in WCW, Kevin Sullivan at the time's wife. Linda Hogan is one of these women in the crowd with Hulk. And then he drops a bomb. Miss Elizabeth and Kevin Greene, who I mentioned earlier, are going to be in his and Savage's corner for the main event, which I found interesting because here's Kevin Greene just having won with the Steelers, that AFC championship. It's not yet the Super Bowl. So he's still kind of, I mean, if that were to happen today where a wrestler showed up in between the championship game and the Super Bowl, people will be shitting bricks.
Well, can you imagine worst case scenario? What could happen? Him get just, roll a knee or roll an ankle. He's out of the Super Bowl.
It was crazy because at the end of this, as I did watch the full Clash of Champions, him and Hogan are taking wrestlers and he is throwing people over the top rope. So it's not like he just stood there. He did get a little bit involved at the end of the match.
There's risk.
It's crazy. It is so crazy. So let's talk about Miss Elizabeth because she hasn't been on Wrestling Arn for a few years, ever since she and Randy split in real life. So do you remember anything about her being there, her coming back, locker room react? Did you see her anything about her returning to the business?
Well, they kept it quiet during the day, obviously. And she's just quite the lady. She always, was just really a nice, soft-spoken person. And I mean, she really was Miss Elizabeth. She was really a nice person.
So soft-spoken, so kind. Yes, Ryan, I remember Rodman came back when the Bulls were in the finals, but he was a different character in Cat. He did anything he wanted, whether they told him to or wanted him to or not. Just think about a football player. I don't know. It's just crazy to me at that period. These are things that you can say would not be allowed or happen today. But getting back to Miss Elizabeth, again, there was a time back in the late 90s where, getting out to Nitros and things like that, I had the opportunity to meet her and get a picture with her and Deborah McMichael. And Arn, she was as kind as you would imagine seeing her on TV. That's how kind of a person she was in person as well. Just soft-spoken and very kind to the fans.
Yep, that's just who she was. She's just a very nice person.
Yeah. So Randy's there, still going on there. And then, as I mentioned, Kevin Greene, Pro Bowl linebacker, big-time personality. And we know you get to work with him later on in the year. But what did you think about him here? Did you think he brings something extra to the story? Or, what was your thought about meeting Kevin Greene and seeing him as part of WCW?
Well, I mean, he's a wild man. He fit being involved in professional wrestling. I don't think it was much of a stretch, to be honest with you. He, there's linebackers and defensive ends that are headhunters, like Mongo. Anything involving fighting, they can amend whatever they have experience-wise and make it, work for them in that scenario because they're headhunters.
Guys, listen, get your super chats in. I promise once we wrap up Clash of Champions and ask Arn some questions, I'm going to come over to you to wrap up the show. Lots of great banter. CG's talking about how he met Miss Elizabeth when he lived in New York. Everything Paul said, I second. She was so genuine, for sure. These guys are talking about, could you imagine Tyrese Halliburton, who's a huge WWE guy? I don't know if Brock told you or not, but Paul Levesque, Triple H, and Nick Khan were at a Pacers-Knicks game. And so was Pat McAfee. Got on the mic and ripped the New York fans. Told them to go. It was great. And last night on Raw, I see they did a Halliburton special edition T-shirt. They're selling WWE shop. So it's a lot of fun. We're still seeing the mix of sports and wrestling. Are you a fan overall of kind of bringing the sports and the athletes and kind of bringing that together? Because it feels like that's what we all love. We love all that, sports and wrestling.
We're fans of theirs. They're fans of ours. It's a good mix, but much respect. If you don't respect the UFC guys and what they bring to the table and what their training looks like on a daily basis, these guys, man, they half kill each other. Got to respect that. And,
sure.
And then they try, they step through the ropes. They think it's going to be, something maybe less than. The first time they take a big bump, they go, holy shoo, whoa, let's back up here a minute. So there's a mutual respect.
So Arn, we continue on with the Clash of the Champions. Here's something that I thought was highly entertaining. Colonel Robert Parker, your longtime friend, guess what he's going to do on this pay-per-view in Vegas? he's going to marry himself Sister Sherry at the Little White Chapel. And Mean Gene Okerlund's going to walk her down the aisle on this show. And Parker then blows all his money at the tables. And then you know what happens as we go through the show? We realize that he was on the phone with some other little sweetheart earlier in the night, and it wasn't Sister Sherry. So by the time the two of them get up to give their nuptials, and before they say I do, who's the other little sweetheart that comes and crashes the party, and we see a full-on brawl? None other than Madusa. And they fight all over the table, the cake. I mean, she's like throwing Sherry onto the cake table. This is all right outside the wedding chapel. Robert Parker's hemming and hawing, homo, making his noises. Okerlund's running away from it all. You got Disco Inferno was there to dance for the wedding music for them to come down to. The Harlem Heater involved. Dick Slater's there. Bunkhouse Buck. It was a shit show. And so you had that all going. You had that all going down throughout this episode.
I forgot all about that.
And so that was the entertainment they were weaving in. It was
well,
great.
Those two ladies were as tough as any of the guys.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really were they tough as any guys. They were not ballets or they were not eye candy. They were wrestlers.
They were ass kickers.
Ass kickers.
Yeah, for sure. So that was fun. And just Okerlund doing his little, and when they were saying their vows, Okerlund's holding the mic and like they were calling him Robert, Andy, Parker. I think they made up the gimmick middle name. I think it was like Andy or Andrew. And Okerlund was just hand over his face laughing because he couldn't, it was like a Saturday Night Live skit where he was like breaking and he was just laughing every time they said his middle name. It was priceless. You guys got to go back and watch. So
that's a guy, Paul, that that I really miss. You're talking about a class act, Gene Okerlund.
Yes.
He was really just a special man and just entertaining as he could be backstage. As much as he was out, holding the mic. He's one that I really, really miss.
You could tell how fun he would be to be around, Arn, just by his quips and things like that. You know what I mean? And you could tell, like, hey, I'm sure if he could say more, he would be even funnier. But he's still got to be a professional and do the deal. But now then clips of him came back out. I don't know if you've ever showed him or if Brock's ever showed you of stuff from his WWF days where they'd be doing behind the scenes interviews, but the tape kept rolling and it's him like swearing and cursing and going. Have you seen any of that?
No, but I will now that I know.
You got to have him show you. It's so good. What the? I mean, he just starts going off, him and Iron Sheik and all, and it's all the tape machines were rolling, and they captured this excess footage, and you can find it out there now on the internet.
Yeah, Brock really thought a lot of Gene as well.
It's
Gene
cool.
was very, very nice to him, and yeah, that's cool. I got to look that up.
Yep. We'll get it for you. I'll send you some links. Let's talk about what else happened. We talked about the wedding. Also, the Road Warriors are back. They confront Sting and Luger. Animal had been out with injury, but now they're back together. They return. Huge pop. What did it mean, you think, having Hawk and Animal back together again in the mix at this point now? Again, WCW Nitro trying to make a difference, and now you got Hawk and Animal fully back together again.
Well, I don't think you have to tell anybody or, who the Road Warriors are and what they meant to the business and, what them showing up, did for the show and for the credibility of the product, period.
Yeah. You have Paul Orndorff. He shows back up. He's in a neck brace after the Horsemen had taken him out. He's now being guided, and I've mentioned this before, by psychic Gary Spivey. He's the guy that had the mushroom hair, kind of looked like that mushroom character in Super Mario Brothers. Anyway, he did late night infomercials. Do you remember the alignment of those two, Gary Spivey?
I don't.
Okay. All right. Just curious if you were, what your thoughts all are on that. So let's talk about some of the matches in the card and we'll roll through it. You have Nasty Boys versus Public Enemy. They destroy each other, Arn. There's tables, moonsaults. The whole thing ends in double DQ. Typical chaos. You then have Dean Malenko taking on Alex Wright, and Dean wins with a roll-up after targeting his leg. It's a tight match. Dean's doing Dean things. Sting and Luger retain the tag titles against one of your best friends of all time, Bobby Eaton and William Regal, the Blue Bloods. Eaton basically will knock himself loopy on the ropes. It's a nice finish, but Sting and Luger get the win. Then Conan, he makes his return after 5 years, and he beats Psychosis, who is making his debut. And Mike Tenay, they bring him out because he was the man when it came to knowledge and calling luchador matches and calling lucha style. But these two wrestle here on the show. Conan gets the win. But then here we go. This is what I wanted to talk about. Pillman, Eddie Guerrero, and somewhere in this match, Brian Pillman rolls out of the ring. He had already kind of messed with Tony Schiavone at one point, and Schiavone jokes, the next time he comes after me, I'm going to get a net and you, Bobby, and put you in front of me so he doesn't touch me. Annette Yoder, I guess that's Tony's talked about her on his podcast. Well, Pillman wasn't done because he comes out, he grabs Bobby Heenan by the sport jacket, begins to take it off. Bobby loses it. He drops a live F-bomb on TV. Get the F off. What the F are you doing? Storms off a commentary. He walks away, starts walking halfway down the aisle, collects his thoughts, comes back down the aisle. You could tell it was totally unscripted. Pillman's kind of glancing at him every once in a while, but trying to focus on Eddie and get the match going, and sits back down. Bobby apologizes if I've said anything wrong, but I shouldn't say on live TV. He's just a loose cannon. But remember, Heenan's had neck surgery at this point.
That's the whole point.
Yeah. Go ahead. What do you think about this? Is he going too far now? I mean, I know he wants to be loose cannon and all, but come on.
Having neck surgery, you are very tender for years afterwards. The healing process from neck surgery is not like anything else because so many other things are affected. There's so many things running down through your shoulders all the way to your hands that all come out of your neck. And when you've had neck surgery, you are very careful about what you do and don't do. And that was 100% legitimate. It was an ad lib by everybody, but Bobby was pissed. And, you know, I mean, he was really pissed. And you can't blame him, you know, because you don't know how far that was going to go. I mean, slinging, number one, you didn't put your hand on the announcers back in the day. You didn't cuss, you know, on live TV back in the day. There were so many things, you know, you don't grab a guy and sling him out of his jacket, you know, on period, live TV or otherwise. There was just so many things that you didn't do that was just understood.
Yeah. Yeah. You knew, you go back and watch it today. It's still, oh God, what are we doing here? Kind of you just watch and see Bobby's reaction. I mean, it was one of those things I rewound a little bit and watched it again and just knowing, shit, you know, that's not part of the script. And then Pillman comes out a little later saying, threatening Bischoff, I'm going to say the 7 words you can't say. How's that? And, you know, he was living the gimmick at this point. And because of what happened with Heenan, you're like, well, is he serious? It made you question. It really did, though, make you question whether what was real and you know, blurring the lines. So for a wrestling fan, he really did. He really was now really looking like this loose cannon. And I mean, it was working because we weren't sure what was real and what was scripted. Suspension
of disbelief.
For sure. All right, so let's get into the main event, Arn, because at the main event we have the final match here, and it's going to be hold on, I just lost my place here. But we have Flair and the Giant beating Hogan and Savage. Now, keep in mind, Savage had just won the world title the night before, and they've got Elizabeth, Woman, Kevin Greene, and this whole entourage at ringside. You think it's set up for a big babyface win, though, here, right?
Who were the actual participants? Hogan, Savage?
Flair and the Giant beating Hogan and Savage. But remember, Hogan and Savage, you know, they got Elizabeth in their corner, Woman in their corner, Kevin Greene in their corner. They have everybody in their corner. But you would think this, hey, they're going to definitely win this match, but no.
Well, you would think, how did the Giant get to be partners with Flair?
Well, again, they were working in some form or fashion. They were working together, but they were also working against each other. again, two heel factions. It was just set up so that one, they had one representative from the Dungeon of Doom and one representative of the Horsemen to go at these two baby faces. And that's why I think some of the booking and having them go at it, people thought, is there a little chaos to this booking? And there's a little question around whether this all made sense.
Yeah, and you can just put bodies out there for star power in those days. That's the only answer and the only reason they're there. Doesn't have to make sense.
Yep, and that's exactly where I was headed. Does it really make sense for them to suddenly get along and then win a match? Or, hey, we've been trying to build the story with tension between these groups, but that's where we're at with the show. As I mentioned at the end of the show, Kevin Greene and Hogan get involved as the various faction members run down, tossing people outside of the ropes, and that's how we wrap up the month of January in Clash of the Champions. A fun event. We saw a lot of new faces coming back to WCW and joining the product. So, a lot of fun. You had Public Enemy, Conan, Psychosis, the Road Warriors reunited, and Woman, Liz, all showing up or getting reintroduced. So is that exciting for you guys from a locker room perspective, having all the new blood come in? And because I think, as fans, we've always gotten excited to see new, fresh faces coming into an organization.
There's probably some guys that were glad to see them and probably some that were pissed, thinking they might lose their spot. There's probably mixed emotions.
No, for sure. Guys, gals, listen, that's wraps up the 96. I'm going to check and see if we have any other super chats, and then maybe go through and ask a couple questions as we start to wrap up the show this week. Just a reminder for those that have joined in late, yes, I know we are switched on our screen names, and I am Arn Anderson this week if you're watching on YouTube. Nobody will notice it when they listen to the audio version, Arn, by the way. And he is Paul Bromwell. Had a little of a technical challenge here with us, but we're still going because we're here for all of you. And we're loving it. Lil Patty, hi, it's great to see you, and others. But we won't be back at the end of the month. So June 24th, 6 p.m. That is 3 weeks from tonight. And the reason for that is Arn and Aaron are going to be celebrating 40 years this month. And so going to do a little bit of extra celebration. But if you have a question that you want to get in, we have about 2 minutes here, and I want to make sure that we ask it. Let's go Shane Clark. Arn, I don't know, we've had Shane Clark here join us before. Any memories about wrestling in Charleston, South Carolina? Thank you for the great podcast.
You're welcome, and thank you for being a part of it. You guys are what the podcast is all about. Charleston was, I just, for some reason, I don't know why, but in the locker room, there was, you remember the old radiator heaters in school when you were in school? Remember how hot those things got?
Yeah.
Well, one of the locker rooms, for some reason, it's like nobody ever cut those things off. Even in the summertime, it seemed like they were on. Those locker rooms were so hot, it was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And for some reason, there was just no air circulating in there. And it may not mean nothing to the average person, but when you're in the locker room and you're sweating from the time you walk in an hour before the show until it's time for you to go on, you can sweat out some pretty serious water and get dehydrated and stuff like that. It was an old building. It was somewhere over there close to the Citadel, somewhere in that area.
Okay.
But it was just 1,000,000 degrees in that locker room. For some reason, that's what I remember about Charleston.
We have a few other questions that I want to make sure that we get to. Stardog Productions said, listen, I can't imagine walking past a row of blue-haired ladies and seeing Arn Anderson in the middle spinning away. I just thought that's hilarious.
And the reaction is unbelievable. They literally just stop and walk back a couple steps and look at me and go, "You're Arn Anderson." Yeah, I used to be. And usually goes from there.
There you go. Andrew Hermes, he said, listen, Madusa has nothing but love for Sherry, speaks often of her, and she speaks about throwing a shoe at Arn.
Yes. She almost beat me up doing a promo.
Oh, man. And you don't forget that one.
No, 100% real quick. We were we were in CNN Center, and we're doing promos. It was me, Bobby, and Madusa was our manager. And I got to be put up first on the promos so that we could run to the gym. There was a gym in the CNN Center, a real nice one before TV. So Tony, pulled a little executive stroke, and we're doing the promos. We got them all done. We did the last one, and we started to leave. And Tony said, "Wait a minute, Arn, you got to do one more. We need all you guys to do one more. This is very important. And we need Madusa to talk." And I went, okay, thinking we're going to do what we had done with all the other promos, which was just one take. We never had to redo anything. One take. And she started getting flustered, and I'm looking at my watch, plus I'm coffeeed up for the gym. This is a timing thing. You know what I'm saying, Paul?
Yes.
So now she messes it up. And finally I just said, Jesus Christ, Madusa, just be like kids, seen and not heard. Brother, she started moving furniture, took her shoe off, threw it at me. But I look at Bobby, who's behind her now. He has folded up a metal chair and is behind her, and I can see he's sitting there on hold, that if she got me down, he's going to hit Madusa with a chair. Dead serious, which I found out after we left out of there. So we get that last.
Bobby's always had your back, huh?
Oh yeah, and he really had it. I said, Bobby, what were you going to do with that chair? I was going to light her up. She got you down. Okay, well, thanks, I guess.
Andrew, does she tell that part of the story? That's funny. That's good. That's good stuff.
I was begging off. No, I'm sorry. I apologize. That was wrong. I didn't mean to say that. Sorry, I was on my bicycle.
Check out Madusa's podcast, by the way. Her and Andrew do a great job over there. Scott S. I'm going to call you that because I don't want to mess up your last name at all, buddy. He said, question for Arn with his neck issues. How did he feel when Pillman grabbed Heenan during a match at the table? You answered that. And exactly, because you can imagine you being in that seat now.
100% understandable.
3 final comments and we'll close her down. Stardog Productions, Colonel Parker always made me laugh. I know he made you laugh too.
Yeah.
Ryan Nodal said Mike Tenay was great doing play-by-play with the Lucha Libre matches. He really was. He knew what he was talking about. Big fan, and it just makes such a difference having Mike Tenay there to be able to storytell, explain, give background, fill in the color. Such a great move to have him be a part of that team and really educate us on Lucha Libre.
Yeah, because I didn't know what the moves were called. I couldn't do the moves. I didn't know what their name was.
Sure.
100% South where I'm concerned.
He was an asset for sure. Daisy Mama, final comment. I hope you have a great Father's Day. That's right. We got Father's Day in there. And a happy anniversary, Arn. If you all could give my husband a birthday shout out, I know he'd appreciate it. Daisy Mama, happy birthday to your husband.
Happy birthday, my man. Hope you have a nice one.
Yep. She's a proud supporter of this show, Arn, and shows up for our show every time we're on the air. So just
we appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure.
And thank you to your husband for allowing you to join us.
There you go. Well, listen, that's going to do it for us. As I said, appreciate all you guys. Everybody's been thankful and wishing us happy Father's Day. Same to all of you. Happy Father's Day to the fathers out there. Thank you so much for the kind words. The professor. That's right, Ryan. Mike Tenay was the professor for sure. And we'll be back, as we've mentioned a few times, the 24th. It's a Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. Ask Arn almost anything. We'll get as many of your questions in as we possibly can. On behalf of the enforcer, Arn Anderson. Look, I did the wrong way because the screens are messed up.
Nobody noticed.
Yes, they did. I'll wait till these YouTube comments. I can't wait. This is Paul Bromwell. We'll see you next time right here on Arn